Imagine being trapped in the middle of the ocean, your ship disabled, the waves growing stronger, and the night closing in. Now imagine hearing a low rumble beneath the water, something approaching fast. Is it an enemy? A threat? Or the only chance for survival? In one of the most unbelievable missions in naval history, a submarine, not built to carry large groups of people, managed to rescue over 130 stranded sailors in a single operation. Today, you'll hear the full story of how discipline, courage, and impossible engineering came together to perform one of the most remarkable rescues ever attempted at sea. This is the story of a submarine that carried far more human lives than it was ever designed for, a story often forgotten but full of lessons about teamwork, decision-making, and hope under extreme pressure. Our journey begins in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean during a time when naval operations were unpredictable, communication was limited, and every mission brought new uncertainty. Submarines in that era were designed with a very specific purpose: stealthy movement, reconnaissance, and occasional surprise attacks on enemy vessels. They were never intended to be floating buses or emergency transport ships. In fact, most submarines of that time had extremely limited space, narrow hallways, compact living quarters, and were already crowded with their own crew, supplies, and essential equipment. Yet despite all these limitations, one submarine and its crew proved that creativity and courage could push the limits of what seemed possible. The event began when a group of over 130 sailors found themselves stranded after their transport vessel suffered severe mechanical failure far from friendly ports. Although they were not in immediate danger from combat at that moment, the isolation of the open sea, the lack of power, and the limited means of communication meant that help needed to arrive quickly. A stranded ship could drift into dangerous waters, encounter storms, or simply run out of supplies. Sending another surface ship for rescue wasn't immediately possible due to operational commitments and the long distance involved. So Naval Command made an unconventional decision: dispatch a submarine for the rescue mission. The moment the submarine received the orders, its crew knew they were facing a completely unconventional challenge. Submarines were airtight, carefully balanced machines, and even small changes in weight distribution could affect buoyancy. Taking on such a large number of passengers could create real risks, and yet the crew accepted the mission without hesitation. Their goal wasn't combat, it was saving lives. When the submarine surfaced near the stranded vessel, the two crews quickly established contact. The stranded sailors were relieved but also surprised. Many had never set foot inside a submarine before, and none expected that a submarine would be the one sent to help them. Still, the sea doesn't offer many choices. When rescue comes, you take it, no matter what shape it arrives in. The transfer needed to happen quickly but safely. Weather conditions could change at any time, and the submarine needed to minimize how long it stayed surfaced. One of the challenges was figuring out where to physically put everyone. Submarines of that design typically carried fewer than 80 people including crew, and even that felt crowded during long missions. Now the crew needed to fit 130 more. The solution was simple but clever. Every open space inside the submarine had to be used. Storage rooms, narrow walkways, empty corners, and even the battery compartment area. Every safe surface became a temporary seat for the rescued sailors. The submarine's crew worked methodically, guiding each person through the narrow hatch. It was slow, cramped, and uncomfortable, but the sailors understood the situation. Their main priority was reaching safety. With all 130 sailors on board, the submarine now carried a population nearly triple its normal capacity. Ventilation became a challenge, since submarines rely heavily on carefully managed air systems. The crew made sure everyone stayed calm and positioned evenly throughout the submarine so that weight was balanced. The officers constantly monitored gauges, depth control, and engine performance to ensure the submarine remained stable. These technical steps may sound small, but they were essential. Submarines depend on precision. A shift of weight or improper trim can affect maneuvering. especially when submerging or surfacing. The crew was essentially performing a balancing act inside a steel cylinder, while transporting far more people than the vessel was designed for. As the submarine began its journey back, the atmosphere inside was a mixture of relief, tension, curiosity, and gratitude. Many of the rescued sailors had never been below the surface of the ocean before, and submarine interiors were a completely unfamiliar world to them. The lights were dim, the corridors tight, and the hum of machinery constant. The rescued sailors respected the crew's instructions, understanding that order and cooperation were vital. Despite the crowding, the submarine maintained a calm and structured environment. Humor and conversation eventually helped ease the atmosphere as the long journey continued. People shared whatever snacks they had, sailors told stories, and the submarine crew made sure everyone was hydrated. Even though space was limited, spirits stayed surprisingly high. Navigating with such a large number of passengers was challenging. The submarine needed to avoid unnecessary dives, turbulence, or sudden maneuvers. The commanding officer plotted a course that minimized risks while still ensuring they reached friendly waters as quickly as possible. Weather forecasts were limited, so the crew constantly scanned the horizon and monitored conditions. Submarine radar and sonar were used more frequently than usual to ensure the path remained clear. Even with all these safety measures, the crew knew that the most important factor was maintaining calm. A stressed crowd in tight quarters could create panic, and panic on a submarine can be dangerous. But the rescued sailors showed remarkable discipline and patience. They understood the situation and trusted the submarine crew completely. Food and supplies presented another challenge. Submarines usually carry only what they need for their own crew. With over 130 extra passengers, the crew had to stretch their food supply creatively. Some meals were reduced in portion size so everyone could be fed evenly. The officers and engineering crew often volunteered to give up part of their own meals to make sure the rescued sailors stayed comfortable. What could have been a stressful experience turned into an example of teamwork and unity. The rescue group also contributed by helping tidy spaces, assisting with basic tasks, and doing whatever they could to ease the workload. Hours turned into a full day or more, depending on the distance to safety. Although the submarine didn't dive deep during this mission, there were still moments where it needed to submerge briefly for strategic reasons. These short dives presented challenges, as oxygen consumption was higher with so many people. But careful planning ensured that these dives were short and safe. Throughout the mission, communication with command headquarters was steady, and updates were delivered whenever possible. The submarine finally reached friendly waters after a long and carefully managed journey. When it surfaced near the rescue port, the sailors cheered, not loudly, because submariners seldom celebrate in dramatic ways, but with deep relief and gratitude. As each of the 130 rescued sailors climbed out of the hatch and onto the rescue platform, they thanked the crew who had given them shelter, safety, and a journey none of them would ever forget. The officers later noted how smoothly the mission went despite the unusual conditions. There were no injuries, no panic, and no major technical problems. It was a rare moment where a submarine, normally known for stealth and strategy, became a vessel of humanitarian rescue. What makes this story so remarkable isn't just the number of people saved, but the discipline and problem-solving that made it possible. Submarines are engineering achievements designed to operate under pressure, literally and figuratively. Everything inside them is measured, planned, and optimized. For a submarine crew to adapt so quickly and efficiently to a completely different mission speaks volumes about their training and mindset. They didn't just follow commands, they used creativity and cooperation to safely transport people in an environment where even small mistakes can have serious consequences. If we look at the broader meaning of this event, we can see how it reflects the adaptability of sailors and naval forces in unpredictable conditions. Sometimes missions change suddenly. Sometimes the objective isn't what you prepared for. Sometimes technology must be used in ways it wasn't originally intended. But throughout history, successful missions often come down to one factor: people working together with discipline and purpose. The rescued sailors never forgot the experience. Many later told stories about how strange yet amazing it felt to ride inside a submarine. Some were fascinated by the machinery, others by the compact living arrangements, and many were simply grateful for the calm professionalism of the submarine crew. For the crew, this mission became a source of pride, something that showed the true range of their capabilities beyond combat or reconnaissance. This event also teaches an important lesson about preparedness. The ocean is unpredictable, and even well-maintained vessels can face unexpected challenges. Having teams ready to respond, adapt, and think creatively makes all the difference. The submarine rescue remains a shining example of how naval forces can come together in moments of crisis to save lives in remarkable ways. It reminds us that even in situations filled with uncertainty, cooperation, and quick thinking can turn a potentially dangerous scenario into a story of hope and survival. The mission stands as one of the largest submarine rescues in history. Even today, modern submarines, despite being larger and more advanced, rarely perform such large-scale human transport operations. It remains a rare and impressive achievement. While records tend to focus on technological advancements or major battles, this mission is a human story: sailors helping sailors, crews stepping outside their traditional roles, and a submarine doing something completely unexpected. As we reflect on the event, it becomes clear that the submarine wasn't just a machine, it was a lifeline. It represented innovation under pressure and the extraordinary capability of people working together in extreme environments. The rescued sailors went home, continued their service, and lived to tell their extraordinary story, all thanks to a submarine crew that turned an impossible task into a successful mission. In the end, the submarine that rescued 130 sailors didn't achieve fame through combat or headlines. Its achievement was quiet but profound, bringing people home safely. And maybe that is the greatest victory any ship can claim.